Good morning, Keller Williams. I hope you had a great weekend. And as you know, we are now in what we call the new normal, for at least for now. Uh, I know that some of you, in regards to picking a household, had some difficulty for sure. What family was going to be with what family. And hopefully in a couple of weeks that'll open up a little more and all families can get together. But for right now, it is what it is. So on Monday, Dr. Jennifer Russell said that when physical distancing measures are loosened even further to allow gatherings in 2 to 4 weeks, masks could become mandatory in settings where it is impossible to maintain proper distancing. Our recommendation for now is to give the public enough time to buy or make their own masks, Russell said. It is possible in the coming weeks that it will become mandatory. The mask provisions will be extremely important in businesses or shops once they reopen. It is important that you get used to wearing these masks. Now, Keller Williams is still officially closed to the public and to the realtors. The message that I sent out on Saturday, I hope was read loud and clear. There is time where agents who have offices need to go to the office to do some work. That is permitted as long as you go directly to your office, as long as you shut your door, and as long as you stay in your office until your work is finished and you leave the building. Those that do not have an office and you need to go to the office to pass in paperwork, maybe to fax or scan or email or what have you, you're permitted to go to the office, do your thing as fast as you can, and leave the building. There is no loitering in the building. There's no conversations or gatherings in the building. These rules will be strictly adhered to going forward. So I hope that the message got out loud and clear. And when we do open the offices, there'll be new provisions made. For instance, I think the Premier said last week that we will be, when this starts to loosen up, all business will have to demonstrate that they are doing COVID-19 in a proper manner where social distancing is still in effect, but maybe just a little bit impossible to do. So if that happens, people that come to the office that want to work in the office will be required probably to wear masks. There'll be sanitization of all office space on probably every 2 to 3 hours. Bathrooms will need to be re-cleaned. So there's a whole lot of stuff that's coming as we move forward to open up these offices. So your new normal today may not be your new normal tomorrow. So just wanted to point that out to you and make sure that we are doing our part and we continue to do our part. And I want to thank you for helping us all flatten this curve. New Brunswick has reported in the last 9 days no cases of COVID-19, which is amazing considering that all the other provinces are still battling like a forest fire raging through their provinces. Our partner next door, who has a lot to deal with beside COVID-19 with all the 22 deaths in Nova Scotia, and our hearts and thoughts go to them. This weekend alone, they had, I believe, 9 or 11 deaths. New Brunswick can be proud to say that we've had no deaths. We had 118 cases. We got 112 that recovered. We've got 6 active cases in the province of New Brunswick. We got 3 in the hospital and nobody in ICU. So again, as the government loosens up and public health loosens up some of the parameters around this COVID, we just need to be absolutely focused on not reverting back. The government has said that if they have 3 cases that are not connected and they're community driven, they will shut us down again. And they're already talking, if you listen to the national news and you listen to the people in the province, they're already talking that there may be a second wave of COVID in the fall. And in order for us not to be back to where we are a few weeks ago in the fall, it is critically important that we do our business as usual in an unusual manner, meaning that if we can do all of our stuff as virtual as possible, then that's what we should be doing. 1.7% of the population in New Brunswick have been tested, so over 13,196 people have been tested for COVID-19. And if you look at the zones, you can see where the zones were the hardest hit, and of course Moncton, I would say probably being a little bit larger city, had the most at 4,208. So if we look at the next slide, this is public health phases and triggers. These are the new phases and triggers implemented by the New Brunswick government to start the process to reopen businesses in a responsible and measured way. There are measures in place to convert back to the strictest control should there be a resurgence in cases. Please continue to respect these public health measures so we can pivot to the new normal. And as you can see, where we were up until Friday was in the red zone. I'm not sure what color zone that is, but there's where we've loosened up physical distancing to household units. In face masks covered in the public, required unless unavailable. Businesses and activities that can ensure physical distancing, open with strict controls. Visitations and vulnerable population, strict controls. Schools and daycares, continue virtual, and daycares for essential workers. Borders and provinces, strict controls and self-isolation. I got a call last night from one of our realtors, said that a realtor from another company has a client that just came in from Nova Scotia, and he's considered an essential worker, and he wanted to go looking at houses. It wasn't an agent from our office, but it was an agent from outside our office that wanted to see one of our properties. And I asked him if that person did self-isolation for 14 days, and he just arrived a few days ago. So my answer to that would be absolutely no. So if you got anybody that has traveled outside this province, not outside the country, outside the province, they come back in the province, they must isolate for 14 days. The COVID-19 documents. I sent these documents, I redid the documents, I send you all documents on Friday afternoon, and I sort of tried to lay out how these documents work, and I still get calls saying, what form do I use and when do I use it? So let me go through this one more time. The seller's consent form is when you're going to list the property and you want to make sure that the sellers that you're listing the property for have answered all the questions directly related to COVID-19. If you have a listing already in the system and you haven't filled out this seller consent form and you get a call to go see that property, you may want to send this seller consent form to your seller and ask them to complete it and send it back to you so you can put it in the file. That way you know that the seller has not been in contact with COVID-19, and he answered and he signed an affidavit saying he didn't. The listing brokerage consent form, that's you listing that property's house. If the seller is telling you he never came in contact with COVID-19, he wants to know that you have been practicing and you haven't come in contact with COVID-19. And it makes sense. Seller, listing agent, 2 forms coming back in the file of the property that you just listed. That's simple. Cooperating broker's consent form, just what it says. It means a cooperating broker outside of Keller Williams. If somebody calls you to show one of your properties and your vendor is allowing the showing, then the cooperating broker, the agent, needs to sign this form answering the specific questions to COVID-19. And when they do that, they're cleared to go. The next step is to get the buyer or the tenant consent form. So the buyer that's going there, we want to know that the buyer has gone and has answered all the questions against COVID-19 that needs to be signed. The cooperating broker's consent form and the buyer's consent form is then sent to the listing agent so the listing agent can put that in the file saying that that was collected. On the buyer's consent form, we took all the information out on the last page with regards to the buyer's address and emails and phone numbers and all this, because on number 12, the cooperating broker is supposed to collect that information anyway. And the reason why we took it out was we were getting pushback because someone thought we were taking people's names and numbers and stuff so that we can scoop somebody's buyers. During this particular time, that would be the last thing that I would think that anyone do. And because we're at Keller Williams, I would think that that would be the last thing that you would do anyway, not even without COVID-19. The third-party service provider consent form, very, very simple. If a inspector, guy doing a water test, a general contractor going to look at a basement, a roofer going up and looking at the roof or whatever, if they're on that property, making contact with anybody that's on that property, must sign a third-party consent form. And of course, I've changed that form a little bit simply because some of these third-party providers have their own COVID policies and procedures in place. If they do, they'll circumvent ours as long as they sign our form and provide a copy of their policy and procedures for COVID-19. That's acceptable. Now, I hope that by going through this again, that everyone gets what I just said. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you, all of our forms are not required to be filled out to send to a cooperating broker. They're our forms if they're coming to look at our properties. If a brokerage has no COVID-19 policies or guidelines in place, and you're going to show their properties, I would recommend that you complete the buyer COVID consent form and you would complete the seller's consent form so that you can put it in your file so that you know that your buyer has been asked the questions. If a cooperating company presents you with, i.e. their form, or i.e. the NBRA form that was circulating last week, and that's what they're using for COVID, and they send that for you to sign it, send it back to them. that's the form they want. But I would fill out the forms if you're looking at buyers and they have no COVID forms on the other side. You fill out yours. You don't have to send it to them. You put it in your file, and we've got a copy so that we can follow. Again, I hope that that's clear, and if it's not, please, before you get too deep into this, send me an email, and I'll get on the phone, and we'll have another round of explanation. So, Keller Williams, this Tech 100 Real Estate has nominated Keller Williams for their Command. Command, a smart CRM plus solution, connects agents to clients more targeted and meaningful ways using artificial intelligence. Command places decent, I don't know if I can't even see it because it's cut off. Oh, here it is. Command places agents in control of their database, their business, and their future, and engagement has been explosive because it was built hand in hand with agents for agents via Keller Williams Labs. This is yet another reason why we're investing in Command technology adaptation for Keller Williams. And I talked to David yesterday. He has gone through 94 interviews to date. We've got 3 people, I believe, we're down to 3 people that haven't signed up. We'll be on that and get that done. And everything is moving in the right direction. And from all accounts, the people that have talked to David has sent me a message or Scott a message saying that it was very beneficial. They enjoyed the time spent or the hour spent with David, and they're looking forward to when he can get out into the field and start doing this. If we're still hampered by COVID-19 when David's ready to do some either group or one-on-one training, that will probably done via Zoom call. I don't know, Zoom may be the new way of doing things in the future, but that's our intent when it comes to that. As you know, that the Command Trading and Resource has been continuing. We're going into our 8th week now, and I would say that we are by far the only company that has poured as much information at you as we possibly can, hoping that you will take bits and pieces of it and keep working in and on your business so that we can pivot and move through this. Today at 2 o'clock, it's Command for Teams with Gilles Plourde for Atlantic Canada. So anybody that's on this call or anyone that's not on the call that you know that have a team, you're welcome to join Jill's Zoom call at 2 o'clock, just set up for Atlantic teams. And at 11:30 this morning, for a half hour, Jill will be working on Facebook, I believe, today. This is day 12 of 15. And by Friday, he'll be finished. And then on Monday, he starts all over again. So if you missed any of it, they're all videoed, so you can go back and look at them. But if you want to go through it for 15 half-hour days, then Jill starts Monday again at day 1. So look for the better models and systems, the ways that can take you further, then adopt new thinking, new skills, and new relationships to help you put them into action. That's one thing by Gary Keller. Now, I don't know how many people on the call would have been in real estate in 2008. There'd be a few of us. But in 2008, we had a we had a major shift in Canada, and the economy was very, very bad, and the housing market was reflective as to some degree what we're going through today. So I just wanted to take the time to be mindful of a couple things. The 2020 COVID crisis has created many economic conditions that will result in a waterfall effect. Small, medium, and large-sized business will be failing. The space they occupy or ultimately have to go back to the market for sale or lease. Mergers and acquisitions will increase as those businesses who shift are now positioned to help or buy those that don't. Apartment complexes under 20 units will be vulnerable to default based on the lack of rent payments. These are complexes will offer income properties to those that can't afford it. Spousal living arrangements and short and long-term relationship will have been strained by mandatory confinement, and some might not survive. These conditions or results are unfortunate for all. In the end result of all of these situations can create the need for all real estate agents to help the most vulnerable people and businesses to relocate, reorganize, rebuild, reinvest, move, and more. All of these transactions could have a positive impact on our real estate as the federal, provincial, and local governments consider a phased plan to reopen slower. We are ready to shift into the new situational gear. On last Friday, we had Susan Venters on talking about Bowl Pivot. And then yesterday on the 9 o'clock Zoom with Carrie and Dylan, they had a guest speaker that talked about Bowl as well. I believe right now throughout the whole company there's over 19,000 people that sign up for Bowl Pivot. And Bowl Pivot is not the bowl that you might have taken for a lot of you in Moncton a year and a half ago or almost 2 years now. This Bowl Pivot is a whole lot different. It works on mindset. It works on scripts and preparedness to make this shift when we move into it in a greater degree. As your leader in leadership, Scott and I would like to put out there that it is imperative that you engaged and get signed up and registered for this Bowl Pivot at $99 US. It will be the cheapest investment that you can make in and on your business at this venture of your career. It will help you get kick-started in a meaningful way so that because it's starting May the 5th, when the 4 weeks, I think it's 4 weeks, when the 4 weeks are up and there's more loosening of the COVID-19 hamstrings, then we'll be in a position that we'll just be able to rock right through and keep this thing rolling at a high level. You know, yesterday, and for many of us, over the last week, dealing with all of the other stuff, but then dealing with income tax and getting your taxes ready and getting to the accountant and everything, yesterday is always one of the days that I never ever want to hear from my accountant. And yesterday he gives me the news that I owe X number of dollars for my corporation, and I owe X number of dollars for my personal because I didn't pay enough taxes or I didn't have enough expenses for the income that I have. And I understand that I have to pay taxes. But here's what I'm thinking, that if I went out and spent more money off of my revenue to educate myself and make sure that I'm on top of everything, and that money that I'm spending in and on myself isn't going to the federal or provincial government in a way of taxes this time of year, who's going to be better off? In my opinion, you're going to be better off. This is an investment in you. And I really, 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 as leadership, ask you to give it some serious thought. And I'm hoping that we get close to 100 plus people in the province of New Brunswick to sign up to Pivot Bowl. That's my hope. And Scott and I always said when we started this company almost 8 years ago that we are a technology and a training company, training. And there is no one that will ever leave Keller Williams saying they never got enough training or never got the opportunity to engage themselves in training. We're giving it to you with a fire hose over the last 7 or 8 weeks. We're going to continue to give it to you, and we're hoping that you take advantage of it. We value you, we appreciate you, and we are very much here for you, and we're just asking you to dive back into your own business so that when this is over, we'll be stronger together. Thank you, and have a great day.